Hello friends, Tanya here with another video featuring the Spellbinders July 2022 kits. I'm going to be using, first of all, the small die of the month. This is the Day at the Beach. It creates a bunch of things that coordinate with a lady sitting on a towel at the beach. Now I've taken several of these dies and cut them out with various different cardstocks. I've got a white cardstock, I've got one I've ink blended, and I've got some patterned paper that's actually from the card kit of the month this month. And I'm going to assemble these pieces for you. We've got two little fringe pieces that cut out that go on each side of the blanket. I'm just going to adhere those, and you just have to match the angles when you're holding them up. It will be quite evident which one goes on which side. There are also several stripes that are die cut with one die, and I've die cut those with some textured white cardstock to add a little extra interest to that. And that's pretty simple. You're just going to use the embossed lines on the die cut for the main piece for the towel or blanket, and add a little adhesive to those and then apply your stripes. You sure don't have to use the stripes. You could just use the blanket with or without the fringe. I think the stripes add a little bit of extra interest though, and I really wanted to include them. So I'll just do half of the blanket because the other side is just a mirror image of this side, and then we'll move on to the rest. I really enjoyed making this card. I enjoy figuring out how to make motion cards from scratch. Oftentimes there's some trial and error, and there is a little bit today. Here's a close-up of that blanket with all of our stripes and our fringe. And then we have our hat. There are two ovals here, a larger and a smaller, and there are a couple of dies that will cut words into that hat brim. These are the top of the hat or the crown of the hat. They layer together to create a space for the band on the hat to be added. We'll add a little bit of glue and pick up the band of the hat, which I've die cut from some of that pattern paper, and we'll adhere that to the middle of the hat. This does not have to be centered. If it's off-centered, it looks a bit like the person's head is tilted and looking to one side or the other. And if you keep it pretty well centered, then it looks like they're looking straight ahead. So there's some ways you can tweak this to adjust for whatever you're doing on your card. Now in my card, I plan to have this person seem to be looking, well, actually, it's not going to be on someone's head. It's going to be just laying on the blanket. But I want it to be tilted towards the center of the card from the left side of the card. Next, we have our beach bag. Most of us ladies have our favorite beach bag. I've had the same one for probably 10 years. Mine happens to be pink and white striped. And what I love about mine is that you can zipper the top shut, and it has a side pocket that isn't zippered. And it also has an inside zipper pocket for those small items that you don't want to lose. It has a waterproof bottom, but it allows for your wet clothing to dry fairly easily. I love that this die actually includes a cut or a slit in the handbag so you can put things inside of it, like the sandals. I've adhered my cute little handle that I cut with some of the mirror cardstock that's included in the card kit of the month, and you can also purchase that in the Spellbinders card shop. We've got our cute little flip-flops here with some gold pieces for the hardware, and we'll do the second flip-flop the same way. These do have different angles for the pieces that you glue on top, but they're really easy to figure out. I'm using my favorite press and seal pieces to keep my pieces together, and then we're going to work on our card in motion. I've cut a piece of cardstock 6 by 7 inches, and I've scored it a 1/2 inch twice on each side, and now I'm taking a long die from the Scallop frame Façade die set. Now this is from a series of die sets that are all A7 or 5 by 7 sized, And this is just a narrow, long, smaller rectangle that will fit within our 4 by 7 inch main panel. I've just spaced it so that 3 of the sides are evenly spaced, and I have a larger space at the bottom. And then I'm going to take another piece that's going on the inside in the back. This is going to be kind of a window box or shadow box style card that folds flat. And I'm going to loosely mark the bottom of that window. I want to create a sea and sky background. And as you can see, I've chosen several blues to do some ink blending. I've got Salty Ocean and Mermaid Lagoon. I start with the Mermaid Lagoon and add some streaks of the Salty Ocean. I'm going to move my masking tape, which doesn't want to stick to the oxides very well, and start with the tumbled glass and add some salvage patina in the same way that I did the Salty Ocean over the Mermaid Lagoon. Just kind of creating a sky with some cloudiness and just blending the two colors of blues together. Next, we're going to use the embossing folder of the month called Geometric Stripes. I'm going to line this up so that the horizon line matches the ocean and sky border, and then I'm going to use this sea salt Hero Hues ink from Hero Arts and add some highlight to the areas that have been embossed. I did clean up a little bit of that extra blue off of my ink pad. Next, we're going to use one of the dies from the card kit of the month, Under the Sea Magic. I wanted some grass to grow on the beach, and I'm going to put those on a couple of little brackets that go inside the card to add extra dimension. Now, I did start with a piece of cardstock that was about 5 inches long and scored at a 1/2 inch on each side. And I'm cutting this in half because I don't need very big pieces for those bridges. We're going to adhere these pieces of vegetation, which are actually like kelp or seagrass, but I'm going to use them for beach grass. And I'm going to adhere those so that they peek in from each side of that window. So I'm going to start adhering them at the crease line for each side and work my way in. I'm alternating the two colors. And these colors were actually created by, the lighter green was white cardstock that was sprinkled with some shimmer powder. I think it was the Nuvo shimmer powders in Jade green or Jade fountain maybe, and the other one was an olive green spritzed with a shimmer spray, probably like the Dirty Martini Dylusions. It's a green spray on an olive cardstock, and then I just die cut those. This is a piece of craft colored cardstock spritzed with a brown shimmer spray. I think this is desert sand Dylusions. I'll have all of those linked in the description box below. I want to make some sand dunes with that, so I just used my scissor to cut a wavy line there. I'm going to try to make sure I cover all of the white bridge behind these seagrass pieces, and then I'm just going to adhere that down over the top. I did have some trouble with the measurements, and I still think they should have worked. I'm not sure why it didn't, but that's okay. This is a work in progress. I'm trimming off the extra of the sand because I didn't take a precise measurement. I just guesstimated how long I needed it to be and then trimmed it off the rest of the way. Just going to adhere this second sand dune. This one will go behind the seagrass one. And now for the front, I decided I wanted a sandy beach embossed on this. I was going to ink blend it, but then I remembered that I have some sand embossing powder from Hero Arts. This stuff's amazing. If you haven't used it before, give it a try. It gives such a realistic sand appearance. I used my embossing my embossing ink direct to the cardstock after I masked off the sides with some masking tape. And the important thing you need to know about this sand embossing powder is you really need to start from the back to get started to get melting, so you don't blow away your larger chunks of embossing powder with the fan from the heat tool. Just to get that warping out, I just ran my fingers over that a couple of times. You do get a little warping. I did use 100-pound white cardstock for this card base, and believe it or not, it only took one sheet of cardstock to make the front and the back. I do use an additional piece to cover the back after I've put in this embossed piece, but that's still not that much for a card. Here I'm going to glue in our pieces. You saw me adhere the embossed panel to the most distant part or most outer fold part, and now we're going to adhere our bridges so that they will show up in our window, and we're going to adhere that to the middle creased area. So we've got our 1/2 inch piece that the back is glued to, and then we have the side of our window box or shadow box that we're adhering our bridges to. Now we're going to do all of this on one side first. And because I want these to be different distances away from the front of the card, I am trimming these accordingly. The one I want back the furthest, I'm going to adhere closest to the embossed panel, and the one that I want closest to the front, I'm going to glue towards the front of the card. Now, I did have to do this several times, and my measurements really should have added up, but they didn't. So I ended up adding a little bit of an extender on each of those bridges, and instead of creasing it precisely, I just adhered them to the other side of the box and did my folding and let the natural process happen to get the creases where they needed to be. To close this up, I add a little glue to that final flap and adhere that down over the embossed panel by laying the whole card flat. Next, we're going to finish the decoration of the front of the card. I've got my blanket, and I'm going to adhere that to the embossing. Now that does take a little longer to dry because we're adhering it to a non-porous surface. Next, I have glued my hat and my bag together and added some coaster blank for some dimension behind that. And I'm adhering those to the blanket. Now that is a porous surface, so I don't need as much pressure and time to get those glues to dry. Last up are the flip-flops. I glue those next to the bag, and I'm really loving how this card's coming together. It really didn't take me that much time. There are specialty dies to make window box or shadow box cards, but you really don't need them, and you can adapt them to whatever size you want. My goal was to create a card that would fit within a 5x7 envelope. I succeeded. This is so cute. Next, we're going to take some little clouds that I had left over from a previous project. They were used or cut out using the On Cloud 9 dies, which is a nesting die set that has, I think, 6 different cloud sizes or shapes. It's super cute. We're just going to adhere those to the inside of the front panel so that they just are drifting across our scene. And I have a few more pieces of this seagrass, and I thought, why not use them? We'll just tuck them inside our different bridges, and I'm using my reverse tweezers to keep them in place till they dry. Next, we're going to take out the clear stamp and die of the month for July, and it's called Have a Chill Summer. And we're taking 3 of the sentiments from that stamp set and inking them with Versa Fine Clair Nocturne ink on some white cardstock. And then we're going to heat emboss them with a little bit of clear embossing powder, mostly because I didn't want to wait for the ink to dry and I didn't want to smear it. But I really do like the way clear embossing powder makes the sentiments stand out even better and fits with the finished and polished look of this card. So we're going to heat set those quickly with our heat tool. It does help to have that a little bit preheated. And it wasn't very long before this that I had done the sand embossing. So I've die cut those with the coordinating dies. I love that. And we're going to adhere 2 to the front and 1 to the back. We're just going to tuck this one on top of the frame. So I only need glue on a little bit of that. I'm trying to make sure that that is nice and straight. And truth be told, the embossing on the back panel really helped me do that. Next, we're going to take the second part of a sentiment and stick that to the front of the card right under our grouping of elements. For the back of the card, I decided that instead of having it just white, I was going to ink blend it the same way I did the inside panel with the same colors, just going to ink blend the entire thing. This is another 4 by 7 inch panel that I cut from some white cardstock, and we'll just adhere that to the back panel of the card, covering up the seams from the box and the embossing part from the inside panel. And then after we get this carefully placed, although I wasn't all that careful, it went into place quite easily, I am going to adhere the last piece of our sentiment. Now you could take the lady from that die, the small die of the month kit, and put her on the back also. I just decided that this was enough for this video. If you wanted to put the lady there, it'd be no problem. If you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, please give this video a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please take a moment and do that now. If you're interested in the products I used, as always, they are in the description box below in a clickable link list. And until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.